At 13 years old, I was administered puberty blockers and testosterone in high doses. And when I was only 15, they removed my breasts. The only thing in the world that makes me angrier is knowing that this is continuing to happen to children all across the United States and throughout the globe.
That was Chloe Cole sharing the pain and confusion that she experienced after she transitioned from a female to a male early in her teens, speaking alongside HHS Secretary RFK Jr. about her traumatic post-op journey, where she underwent a number of treatments very early in her life, all of which she says now have permanently affected her. Now the HHS is proposing new regulations to end gender treatments for children. Lisa, you've spoken with Chloe and interviewed her.
Yes, I love Chloe Cole. I just think she is so bold, so brave, but yet she's not bitter about these things that adults allow to happen to her. Puberty blockers at 13, double mastectomy at 15 years old. And think about how evil but clever the people who support this are. They call it gender affirming. They put sugar on top of a monstrosity. There's nothing gender affirming about, there's nothing kind about what they're doing. It's child mutilation. You don't let a child get a tattoo. You'll cut off a child's breast. You'll give them puberty blockers. And the UK is not always courageous, but the UK has been in terms of banning puberty blockers for younger people. We should do the same thing here in the United States federally. I know some states have implemented bans, but nationally we should. President Trump's moved forward with executive orders. Good for him. But it is our jobs as adults to protect children. And doctors are cashing in instead, and so are psychologists, instead of protecting these young people. So shame on anyone who has taken part of that.
Rosanna, she covered some of the ground there, but there are new rules all across Europe. They're reining this in. And really, I think part of Chloe's story is telling a full story. For a very long time, parents or kids that were considering this were told that their child might commit suicide if they didn't allow the puberty blockers or potentially even surgery, which is what happened to Chloe in her teens.
What I'm going to say is I'm so happy Chloe is speaking out. I want to share a personal story. A friend of mine's son, in his 20s, came out as gay, and the family was very supportive. Shortly after, he said he was no longer gay, he was trans. They were concerned, but they supported. He started to go through the process of transitioning, and he realized he's not gay. He's not trans, he's gay. Well, during that time, all the medications, all the drugs they gave him really messed him up. He wound up in a hospital for years. Wow. For years. Suicidal. Oh. His father, at one point, he tried to commit suicide in front of his father. His father saved him, but he had to be institutionalized for a number of years. These are serious drugs. They should not be given to teenagers. This young man was in his 20s when he did it. 13-year-olds should not have it.
Yeah, and I think you touched on some of the struggles that parents feel when they're caught in the mix of this and when we're talking about minors.
And just a reminder that legally, as some states step up and want to pass legislation protecting minors from the butchery and the horrific life unaltering, irreversible effects, people say it's anti-trans. And you have the sugarcoating come in the narrative that pushes against it. Keep in mind, as Gavin Newsom enters the ring, or just doesn't leave the ring, that he wanted his state to in loco parentis, meaning stand in for the parents in any custody dispute where one parent refuses to affirm the fake gender, and then the state would step in and control. So, guys, look at the laws. Look at the laws where you are, and look at who's pushing those laws so you can vote against them.
Jeremy.
And they're always wanting, if you notice, just like what you're saying, Emily, they're always wanting to remove parents out of the equation. They want it to be your child and the state, or your child and their doctor, your child and the teacher who's telling them. I mean, it's absurd. I think about, we mentioned Yale, the last block, and I was thinking about how when we were there with our daughter, my wife and I, my daughter, at that point, she might have been 3 or 4, they literally had posters in the pediatrician's office saying, we will talk to your child about transitioning their gender. I mean, you saw the post with a little rainbow flag and the whole thing, we're happy to talk to them about that, and we will help transition them if they want to. I mean, promoting it Not just kind of a hush-hush thing, we got to mention it or talk to. No, they're like actively promoting this nonsense. And so my wife and I, we said we are never leaving our child alone with any of these people. And it's sad to say that at a pediatrician's office, which should be a safe place. But we have to ask a lot more questions as parents about the type of environments that even some of the medical areas that our kids are in.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.